All right, well, welcome everyone. Great to have you watching this webinar presentation. I'm really excited to be able to bring you some really valuable information and introduce you to a specialist today in the tennis industry and the sporting industry relating to the college pathway. Our time together today or tonight, wherever you are, it's really going to be taking you through a process of understanding what's involved with the college scholarship pathway, the best ways to approach it, what you need to do. So just giving you all the information that you need to be able to give yourself the best understanding of what needs to happen in order to give yourself a scholarship and get yourself into college in the US. So I'm lucky enough to have joining us today an expert, like I mentioned, Craig Stock, and Craig works for a company called Sport USA. They're a scholarship specialist company, and really what they do is they help players through the journey and help get you into college and also help manage the athlete during the process, through the process, all the way through college. I love what these guys are doing. They've been around for 12 years. So they're not a flash in the pan. They're doing great things in the industry. And in fact, they've actually helped thousands of players get into college. So that alone is a great testament for the fantastic work they're doing. And Craig's role specifically, he's actually the head of recruitment for Sport USA. So we're hearing from the cream of the top in regarding what's going on and what you need to do. So without further more, Craig, welcome to the webinar. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. Great intro. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah.
And welcome everybody that's going to watch the presentation and the consultation that we're going to do together. Myself and Nathan, really excited to share all the information in the best way possible to help you guys in your ambition to go and study in the US.
Yeah. Now, Craig, look, we do get a lot of inquiries about how do I get into college and what do I need to do? And to be honest with you, like we don't have much of an idea. It's not sort of specifically what we do, which is why I'm we're grateful that we've met and that we've started this connection because you're an expert and the company's doing great things. So can you just explain to the audience briefly what the actual college scholarship system looks like from start to finish, sort of what's involved in it?
Yeah, so I think in terms of specifically tennis, there are thousands and thousands of scholarships available. Roughly about 10,000 for male.
Wow.
And 11,500 for female. Generally, the females get more scholarships available through tennis because in the male situation, NFL, your baseball, your basketball take a large chunk of the financial.
Sure.
So generally, they do favour girls within tennis. Now, in terms of that, there's the NCAA, which is your National Collegiate Athletics Association. That's your top association. So that's the one that's the most glorified, the whole big razzmatazz, your stereotypical American films. And basically, you play within your colleges. So each college would play within their conference. So you've got the Big Ten or the Pac-12, the Big 12, the ACC, and then they go into regional national finals. Now, college tennis it's almost like a full-time job. They do require you to maintain certain levels of athleticism, academic levels, and obviously your tennis level, your UTR. In terms of the UTR, to get a very, very good scholarship to one of these top US colleges, the females need to be looking at a UTR of 10 and above. And the males need to be looking at 12 and above for one of the top elite colleges. So that would be your UCLA's, your Florida, your Michigans, your Ohio States, your Indianas, all of those type of universities are looking for that type of UTR. Now, the average team size for men and women is about 10, their roster, and 4.5 scholarships available for men, 8 scholarships available for girls per team. So there
Wow.
are potentially, over
Yeah.
6,500 scholarships available per sport. Per male and female within tennis.
Wow.
It's a huge industry. There's lots of
Yeah.
opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what about the SAT? What in regards to that? So there's obviously the tennis side of it. What
Yep.
about academics?
Yeah. So the SAT, or you can do the ACT. So the ACT exam is slightly more science based, but generally people will do the SAT. It's your GCSE in the UK level. It's GCSE level or O level, maths and English, and you get 800 credits now per maths and English. Now, what we do is we have an SAT tutor that can help every student athlete that comes on board, which allows them to potentially join an athletic and an academic scholarship for Division 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Now the SAT, you're looking at a really good score being 1350, 1450 out of 1600, and that would then open up the doors for some very good Division 3 academics, financial aid scholarships, and also the Ivy League. So your Ivy League university being your Yales, your Columbias, your Browns, your Princetons, Dartmouth. So they are obviously the creme de la creme, and to get 1450 and above, you open up the Ivy League doors.
Okay.
And we're well connected with the Ivy League all the way down to junior college.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So for those people watching this and not sure what SAT is, that's just like the American, their education scaling system that they use. Each country is different, but to get into an American college, you'd need to qualify using the SAT system, and Sport USA, as Craig was saying, will help you through that process, converting things over, etc., from what you're doing in your own country. So if we talk about that sort of 1450 and a 12 and above UTR, what would like the base or more the bottom range be? Like, what's the fluctuation between? Because I know there's different tiers of colleges too, right? There's Div 1.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So how does that work?
So those are, you're looking at your top NCAA division colleges. You've got the NAIA, which is a different association, and then you've got junior college. So junior college is not campus based, really small. Obviously the facilities aren't as flash. The coaching is slightly more part-time. It's not a full-time program, but it is a good way to get into college. It's cheaper. And you would be looking at a UTR level men's to get into a junior college of say 8, 9. You would probably get a really good opportunity. Females and women's tennis, you're looking at maybe a UTR of 4 or 5, and you would still be getting some good opportunities to play in junior college. So there's lots of scope. And academically, junior college, you do your undergrad. So you do your associate's degree, and then you go and transfer into the NAIA or the NCAA for full bachelor's. So it's a way that's slightly less academically challenging as well, junior college. You only need a low SAT score, 800-900. So that is the full range really in terms of what we would look for in terms of our bespoke profiling.
Yeah. And do you get many players going in the junior college and working their way up, or is it most players are sort of coming? I
think on that note, I think it's important that the top NCAA colleges, we can secure maybe $60,000 scholarship, but you're still potentially paying 15 or 20,000 a year because some of these top colleges are very expensive. So one of the biggest parts of our journey is that when we do a consultation with the student athlete and the parents, is that we will be very clear on the budget and what they have in there, and matching their ambitions with the UTR and their academic level in terms of where they would be positioned, or the type of colleges, universities that they would be speaking to. So junior college is a good route for people that potentially don't have much budget also, and they can get some really good scholarships there.
That's a good option for a lot of people. All right, so let's just touch on, when should people start looking at contacting Sport USA to help the process to get started? Like, what sort of age are we looking at, and what would happen there?
Yeah, so we encourage people to start when they're about 15 to 16. People need to be starting to building their profile, get their SAT score, have our goal setting and our professional management through the
Yep.
process as soon as possible. It can get, it can be quite stressful at times, doing the NCAA eligibility and
Yeah.
studying for your SAT alongside obviously college, university or college work that they're doing within Australia or wherever they are in the world. So I think the earlier the better. Now, by the time they are 17, they really need to have that exposure. It is now becoming such a globally competitive scenario to go and get financial aid at some of these top universities that they need to be hitting, good academic scores, good UTR scores by the time they're 17. So we
Yeah.
would send their profile in the fall, September of their penultimate year of secondary school.
Yep.
So 17, that gives them then a whole 6 months to a year to start speaking to college coaches. And then their final year in the fall, September, they would then start accepting some university, go through the interview process, and
Yep.
then maybe a very good scholarship, fingers crossed, way into 9 months before they need to be going. So
Sure.
that would be a really good timeline. So 15, 16, we can goal set, we can manage them through everything, like interview techniques, all of that process, to then be speaking to college coaches at 17.
Okay.
The earlier they get exposed, and the college coach, if they're
100%.
really interested and they look at their video, because we have a media team that would do their video, do their like Sky Sports highlights reel for them. And the earlier the college coach can see that and see their ITF rankings and see their techniques, see how they move. Some college coaches will really look at the video and maybe not look at the UTR, for example. They might see really great mover, and in their roster they might, or a double specialist, for example.
Yes. Yeah, that's true.
So within their roster,
they help them start to build the team.
Yeah, exactly. And I think each roster is different, each college coach and the ambition to that team is different. So it's really important that we expose these student athletes as early
That's
as
a good
possible.
point. That's a good point in getting in early, because also the coach then gets to build rapport with the player, right? And if they think, look, I can work with this player, they're not quite where I want them to be technically or physically, but we can improve that. But I like the attitude, and I can see something there. No, that's a good point. All right, so
I think they will undoubtedly look at their results and look at the progressions in ITF tournaments, whether it's J4s, J5s, whatever. They will do their research over the course of the year as well, which is important.
Yeah. All right. So last point on, I guess, the college pathway and the system and how it works. In regards to, like, what would a typical week look like for players when they're in college and they've got their tennis and they've got their study, and would they be staying, if they say they're staying on campus, like what would a typical week look like for them?
Great question. So they will do training every day with some sort of competition in the afternoon. So depending on the program, junior college, as I said, slightly more part-time. So they might only be playing Monday matches on a Wednesday or weekend, and they might train Friday before the matches. So it's slightly more part-time. If you go into a top NCAA college, you're going to be playing every day. Training sessions usually last 3 hours. That could be morning or afternoon. And they will typically do 1 or 2 classes per day. Generally, they will have their own S&C programs as well. So they'll have 2 or 3 sessions of S&C, and then they will travel for matches within their conference, because the beauty of the American system is that you get the worldwide travel, I guess, in terms of across the states. 100%. They're traveling from university to university. So
that's so good.
But again, it differs. Some college coaches will want to bang it out in the morning, 7 a.m. S&C, 8 till 10, tennis training 2 hours and a bit of competition, or some, depending on the demand of the athlete, they might access a few private individuals per week on maybe serving placement, or developing better hands at the net, or whatever it may be. So, but generally 3 hours a day, plus 2 hours of study, an hour of lunch. You know, you get all your food, all your nutrition well looked after. And as I
Incredible.
said, S&C as well,
Sounds like a
which obviously you're
dream.
familiar with. Ah, phenomenal. You are treated as an elite athlete, and
Yeah,
I think the supporting structure, you know, in terms of the technologies, the massage, the physios,
100%, 100%.
gyms, it is phenomenal. It's
Yeah,
phenomenal. And you know, on that note, I guess go to the people that are watching, please go and look on YouTube. It's a great resource. Go to the Sport USA YouTube
yeah,
channel and look at a day in the life of a tennis player, Div 1
yeah.
tennis player, and see the facilities and you know, all of that nutrition, all the food. It
Mm,
is incredible. You are
yeah.
really well looked at.
And look, one thing, look, obviously we're based in Australia, but you know, we've worked around the world for a long period of time in academies and on the pro tours. One thing that I always encourage players, particularly, I think in the last 10 years, tennis is, well, probably 15 years, tennis has changed a lot. It's become a lot more physically demanding. But in saying that, sports science has got a lot better in regards to how we protect the athlete, that we can improve the longevity of the athlete. So players are generally coming in a little bit later. We're not getting the 16, 17-year-old professionals anymore. We're getting them in
Sure.
their early 20s, but they're playing into their 30s. So in saying that, I think the college system for me it's just an ideal way to build and continue your development as a player. An issue we've got in Australia is we just don't have access to a lot of high-end academies. And, you know, some academies are doing it okay. They're, you know, they're covering mainly the on-court play and practice.
Yeah.
S&C is a bit hit and miss, not much mental support and recoveries, you know, just do your best.
Yeah.
What I love about the college systems is the majority of the colleges that players get placed into, they've got structure. And the feedback that we get from players week in, week out that contact us is they're crying out for structure and certainty. They want to know that this is what you need to do and this is going to work for you because it's proven. And these colleges, they're not just, you know, throwing spaghetti at the wall. They're building each year on what's worked well from the previous year and what we can do better from the previous year, and everything's getting better. So if players jump into that
Yeah.
system, it's going to
Yeah.
work for them. If they can see it through and be consistent, it's a no-brainer in my opinion. Then you go on and you get an education that's partly paid for. You're in you got great life experience. You got exposure to things at a high level, which all young players need exposure to uncomfortability. And then all of a sudden you come out of it with a degree, with great exposure, more resilience physically, mentally, and technically, and you can have a crack at being a pro and you're 21, 22 years old.
Sure, for sure.
So,
It's I think the structure and I think the accountability of the athlete. It's
yeah,
athlete management over there. It's not come and be a tennis player and that's it. You know, it's right. How well are you sleeping? How well are you eating? As you quite rightly say,
fantastic.
the recovery,
Yeah,
the off-court work, and the demands of the college coach. Because ultimately, it's competitive, right? So
mm,
if you're not eating well, if you're not sleeping well,
mm,
if you're not doing those little extras of S&C, like you rolling out, like your recovery work,
yep,
you're going to underperform, and then you're not going to be in the roster because the coach ultimately wants to win. They want to be the best in their
100%.
conference, and so that breeds that mindset all automatically in that environment.
The culture.
Breeds a culture of
Yeah,
hungrier, more
yeah,
competitive tennis players,
yeah,
or just athletes in general.
yeah,
And you know, you start to feel guilty when you're not doing the little extras because everybody else
yeah,
around you can't do those.
100%.
And that, as you say, you hit the nail on the head. The culture of go and be the best that you can be,
Yeah,
and go and perform. I
and
think
the
a great stats of this year: 77 professional tennis players that were in the main draw Wimbledon across mixed doubles, women's and men's singles. 77 of them were in the college, went through the college
wow,
system. So if you
that's
take
incredible.
128 players, both men, female, you know, you're looking at almost a third of players went through the college system.
Yeah,
Um,
wow,
you know, the most notable, the one that probably is closest to me is Lissy Barnett. She's just played Fed Cup for Great Britain. I coached her when she was 12.
Awesome, mate. Well done.
And a guy called Joe Salisbury, who I know through a coach, a very good coach of mine, Tom Corey. Joe Salisbury went through the college system. So it is a myth. Oh, I'm giving up being a professional if I go to college. Within tennis, as you quite rightly say, the maturity levels and developing later now is it's a real advantage to go.
I think a lot of it's education, Craig, to be honest. And there's a lot of, I think there's just a lot of misinformation and a lot of ignorance from people. They just aren't sure, like they just don't know. And that's why I wanted to put this together and speak to an expert. So look, mate, thanks for clarifying, what's involved and how it all works. Now I want to talk to you about Sport USA, about the company. You guys help recruit players and help find the right placement for them and obviously support them through the whole process. That's what I love about your company and what you guys do. It's not just, we've got them in, just they'll be okay. It's the rapport, it's the care. That's sort of what I'm really looking forward to finding out a little bit more about from you now. So can you just explain to everyone a little bit about Sport USA and how you guys can help all this happen?
Yeah, so our philosophy is athlete management, and I've touched upon it already. That's a phrase that we pride ourselves on in terms of making it fully bespoke to every student athlete. We understand every student athlete is different, has different demands, is different in their character. So we're not a placement company. We won't place and say goodbye. So I think we will be there, a support structure through college. We have an office in Atlanta, Georgia. Claude runs a tennis academy out there. So we have that base on the ground within the States that can be utilized. We're linked with a pro management company. So at the end of college, if they needed help in terms of finding work or actually going into a professional career, we can link them with Series Athlete and we can look after them. So it starts with the consultation. As if anybody was interested, they'd come on board to Sport USA and we would go through budget. Where would you like to be geographically? When would you like to major? What's your ambition in terms of, is it 50-50 academic and tennis? Is it more tennis and the academics are slightly less important? We will go through all of those issues and bespoke profiling in terms of, right, these are the type of universities that you will be aiming for, that you would match. We would then do that on the UTR. So let's say a tennis player, female tennis player, she wants to be number one. She wants to play number one in the roster, and her UTR's 8. Well, then obviously we're looking at maybe the NIA or a Division II NCAA college, because she wants some stronger matches. Some other people, I'm dealing with a tennis player at the moment, he actually wants to be at the bottom of the roster. So he's a young tennis player and he wants to be in a situation where, he's being pushed every day against bigger, stronger players to improve his tennis. So he's not bothered about whether he wants to play regularly. He wants to be in a training environment.
Wants to be challenged.
First year that he knows he's going to be challenged, and day in, day out, he's going to have to improve. So
that's
again,
a good attitude.
We would do that.
So that's good. So it's cut. So it's great. So that first consultation, you're working out, what your goals are, where you want to be, what sort of, how I guess their personality is, and then you can go. Okay,
how well do they travel?
Yeah.
How well do they travel? From you guys in Australia, the West Coast. So California is closer in terms of a flight than the East Coast. So again, if they're not a good traveler geographically, we will pick universities that make it much more simpler. How close is it to a major airport? So then you're not dealing with so many transfers, etc. So again, we go through all of that. We have a media team, as I said, that will put their video together. We will connect them with coaches from the Ivy League all the way down to junior college. We help them with the NCAA eligibility, with visas, with interview techniques, which I think for me is really important. How they come across to a college coach, what questions to ask.
That's great.
What the college coaches would ask
because you probably know generally like what a lot of the questions are going to be, right? So
yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. Like the college coaches will be, the main one that they ask is, how will you benefit my roster? So it comes down to how well you sell yourself.
Yeah.
And that is about your character. It's about more about the off court work, because they
Mm,
can understand, they can go and see your results and understand that, and they can see your tennis
mm,
ability through the video. But what are you bringing day in, day out? Are
yeah.
you a confident person? Are you going to pick people up when they're down, or, because
Love
it
it.
is a team environment.
Yeah.
Remember,
Love it.
tennis typically, if I'm training at a club, is not team tennis. It's go and
Yeah.
play singles, go and compete against everybody. It's very insular. Whereas
So
in the
good.
college system, it's about team. How can we
Yeah.
win as a team against all the other teams?
Yep.
So
Yep.
that for me is really important. Selling
I
yourself
agree.
as a character,
Yep.
positive influence on people around you.
Yep.
Um,
So
I always
giving
train
them the tips
people.
and tools all around those things, which is
Yeah,
obviously highly valuable, because that could be make or break.
massive.
You could have the right UTR and the right SAT, and the coach goes, "Oh, I just don't think they're going to fit in."
Yeah, don't get a good feel through the video. And it is a hard sell through video. It is,
Yep.
although it's a positive to be able to do it now rather than 20 years ago when you just did a straight video and that was it. Now with video
Yeah.
calling and the technology to have those interview processes. But,
Sure.
it is really important to get that right,
Yep.
100%. And
Okay.
I, if need be, with athletes, I will drill them. I will put them through an interview process if need be. If
You'll
like
go hard ass, eh?
yeah, I'll crack the whip for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
that,
So yeah. So someone was to come on board with you guys at say 14, 15 years of age. Like you
yeah,
said before, you have the consultation, and then you start staying in touch with them, um, helping them, navigate through. We got to get your UTR to this at this age, and we've got to work on your academics at this. Then slowly just
yeah,
start to put the reels together, start to connect them with colleges, start to sort of put the feelers out, so to speak, on where they're
yeah,
at as they start to get a little bit older, and then just navigate that whole process through with them.
yeah, yeah. All the way through monthly meetings with the family. How are you getting on
Okay.
with the essay? It again, it depends. Some
Yeah.
parents, some athletes are fine. We give them a
Yeah.
goal, they crack on. Like
Yeah.
again, I had a tennis player. UTR is quite low in the UK, so I said, look, I don't want to speak to you for 3 months. Go
Yeah.
and compete every weekend,
Yeah.
and go and I'll keep tabs on you.
Yeah.
Well, we set up a WhatsApp group with the parents and the student athlete, and we just have that constant trail of communication, which is important.
Well, I'll tell you something now. I've had half a dozen players that I've helped look after. I'd say manage, do their athletic management, so their strength and conditioning training. But now, we mentor a lot of players.
Yeah,
And say these half a dozen players, say over the last 18 months, they've come to us wanting to go to college. And I was like, okay, so who are you using? Who's supporting you? Who's taking you through? Oh, we're just, we didn't want to go down that way. We just try to do it on our own. Not one of them got into college. And to be
yeah,
honest with you, when I was asking them questions, I was concerned because the answers I was getting back was telling me that first of all, they didn't know what needed to happen. And if you don't know what has to happen, you're shooting an arrow into a dark room. So, and evidently, none of them got into college.
yeah,
Now, a couple of players that I have known that have used, some recruitment companies, they've loved the journey. It's worked really well for them, and it brings that certainty for them. They almost, like, so to speak, can sleep better at night knowing we're doing everything right. We're ticking the boxes. Once again, if
yeah,
we're telling you what you got to do and you're doing it, then there's a good chance you're going to make it.
yeah,
Now, you'd mentioned to me previously that also when you find them placement in a college, that you also will stay in touch with them and help sort of, help them through the process of getting set up in college,
yeah.
making sure they're okay, which I think is fantastic. Can you just explain a bit more about how that works?
Yeah, again, it's the demands. We understand that the pastoral element is important, and the first semester can be very challenging in terms of the culture,
Yep.
dormitories, food, sleep, the demands of the day,
Yeah.
it can be tough. So we're on hand. As I said, we'll have a WhatsApp group with the student athlete and the parents, and they can just
Yep.
call me, text me, voice note me, whatever's suitable for them, and we can help them now through college. And if they do, it's not uncommon that sometimes a new coach will come into the university and there's a bit of friction, or there's a bit of communication breakdown between the
Yeah.
student athlete and the coach. I can be that mediator there. They can come to me and say, hey,
Yeah.
look, would you mind just having a word with the coach and just explaining how I'm feeling? And
Yeah.
some people aren't confident and don't like to get into that
Sure.
conflict environment. So we can mediate that. That's absolutely fine.
Yep.
And I think also a strength of ours is that we will look after them in terms of helping them transfer.
Yep.
Again, so that's not uncommon. That their first
Sure.
year,
Sure.
maybe 18 months, they improve their UTR,
Yeah.
and another college coach from down the road loves them and
Yeah.
has a spot for them and offers them a better scholarship. Well, we will take care of that, and we can be that communication line. So again, very stress-free. They can
Yeah.
concentrate on their academics, and they can concentrate on performing, eating, sleeping really well, so that they know that we are that safety net. I think that's the most important thing. They've got that supporting structure,
Yeah.
which we really value. Do we use it all the time? No. There's some student athletes just get on with it. Yes, everybody's different, but we have got in touch with many of them, and it might be just feeling a bit homesick, and they just need to
Yeah.
chat, and it's fine. They just don't want to be quite open and honest with parents. Well, then they can use us, and we're
100%.
there.
That's
No,
fantastic.
I think it's really important that they feel that they have, as I said, have that support structure to go and perform, because ultimately that's what they're there to do.
Yeah. So one thing I liked, and you sort of mentioned it a few times, it's sort of needs based. Some players are going to need a bit more attention in one area. They might be a bit homesick or whatever the case. Some players are going to need a bit more, help with some accountability. So the coach might be saying, hey, we need to work on this. And that's what I like about what you guys offer. It's a bit more of that rather than just saying, no, we've done everything we can do and that's it. It's like, no. What's going to help you feel comfortable?
Yeah,
What's
I
going to
think,
help you perform the best?
and as a company, being linked with yourselves now in terms of if the coach isn't happy with an athlete's strength and conditioning and physical performance, they can access you. We've got sports psychologists as
Yeah.
part of our profile. A guy called Dave Samuel who works on the tour. He's linked with us. He's working with Liam Brody at the moment. Worked with Marcus Daniel, a Kiwi, a doubles, a very specialist, a specialist Kiwis. He's plays Davis Cup for New Zealand, but Dave's worked with very, very good top 100 players, and he's brought out a book called Locker Room Power. And a lot of our athletes, we use that and say, look, if you are struggling, if you want to improve your psychology and your tennis mentality, you can access Dave. So again, the supporting structure of what we can offer through that journey is superb. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, mate, before I let you go, and once again, thanks for your time. I just want to finish off
Thank you.
getting, look, any final tips or what are some common questions that you get from people that maybe you could answer before they get in touch with you?
I think the common question would be, how much is a scholarship? And the honest answer is it depends, because each college has a different cost. Each college will, depending on the college coach, at what they need within their roster, what financial aid they've got to them will depend. Now, that's a really tough question to ask, but we can start to gauge in terms of their ambitions. NCAA, NNIA, junior college, we can help them. Another common question is, are you guaranteed a scholarship? Well, you're never ever guaranteed, but what we can do is we can always stipulate and start ticking all the boxes, and again, guide you through the ambition of where you would be placed. What does the scholarship cover? So most scholarships will cover accommodation, tuition, and food. So once you're there, you're not having to pay anything.
It's incredible.
And within tennis, they're all branded, right? So they're all sponsored by Wilson or Babolat or Head, and you get your rackets and your strings and your clothing. A lot of that stuff is completely covered. And the other major question is, can you combine an athletic scholarship and an academic scholarship? And that is 100% true. You can. For the NCAA Division 1 and 2. So NCAA Division 3, so that's your MITs, your Carnegie Mellons, St. John's, some of the big academic schools and universities. You can only get academic scholarships to Division 3 universities. But some of those teams are strong and will beat some of the Division One
Okay.
universities.
Wow.
So
There you
even
go.
though they're only dish out financial aid for academics and slightly more expensive, you need more budget for Division 3. Some of their teams, their UTRs will be 12s, 13s, 14s. There will be some very good tennis players in there. So Division 3 doesn't mean that it's worse than Division 1. So that would be another question.
Yep.
Moving on to the tips to get it right. I think I've mentioned it before. Start early.
Yes.
Understand your ambition. Understand your journey. Understand the adventure. Understand everything that we've spoken about today in terms of your UTR. What's feasible? You might be a UTR as a male now 7, thinking, oh, but I really want to be in NCAA Division 1. Well, what's the timeline between 15 and 17? Can you physically get a UTR from 7 to 12? That's a pretty tough ask. So again, we would be managing the ambitions. Tips is know your budget. I think that comes more parent orientated. And the next tip is understand, as I've said, the academic and sporting level and matching that with your ambition. So there's no cotton wool over your eyes. There's no false hope.
No smoke and mirrors.
Absolutely. There is a real clear identity to what we're trying to achieve. And I think that's what we do in the consultations and our athlete management. So those are tips on getting it right.
Yeah. No,
Start
awesome.
early.
Start early.
Get it early is the key for sure.
And if so, I'm going to give people some information in a moment and ways that they can get in contact with yourself and with Sport USA. And so you guys, the first step for everyone would be to get in touch with Craig and the team and to have an initial consultation. And I believe that that's free of charge. Is that correct, Craig?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's 45 minutes generally.
So people got nothing. You got nothing to lose. And if you got any other questions after watching this webinar, I just encourage you, if you are looking at the college pathway, these are the guys to go with. Like I said, I'm going to give you an option and some ways that you can contact them in a moment and reach out, have a consultation and see how things go from there. It's going to 45 minutes of your time. You're going to get a bit more information and you can start the process ASAP. Like Craig said, start early. You got nothing to lose. And thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it. Thanks. I always love speaking to experts in their field. And most importantly for us at Tennis Fitness, we love partnering with good people and good businesses. So, we wish you guys all the best. And we might do this again one day soon. Thanks, Craig.
Yeah, superb. Thank you. Thank you very much.